Good morning, fish keepers. It's Friday. We've done it again. We've knocked another one off. That is a very, very happy day. We're all very happy. So let's do coffee. It's good coffee. It's my first coffee for the day, which is why it's probably really, really good. Oh, yeah. All right. So, first of all, just adjust my microphone here a little bit. So first of all, I got a couple of apologies to crank out. Apologies from John, who is unwell today. Texted me very early this morning saying that he's not going to be able to make it because he's feeling like absolute butthole. So yeah, that is what it is. It is part and parcel of it. And also apologies, we did have a guest lined up this morning. For this morning, sorry. But they were unable to attend that we know about Tuesday this week, and we just weren't able to get somebody else in for today. So you've literally got to put up with me for this whole live stream. So I'm very sorry to everybody that's concerned about that. Good morning, everybody in the chat. It is great to see you here. Thank you very much for being with us. We really, really appreciate it. So because it's just me today, the ones that are just me normally tend to be pretty short and sweet, but we'll see how we go. If there's anything anybody wants to talk about in the comments, please feel free to chuck them in, anyone who is watching, and we can bring up those topics and those subjects and continue to have a nice merry wee chat about fish, basically. Sherwood likes to know if I've seen any snow. If I was to, behind my camera, there's a curtain, there's a big window. If I was to open that up, I would see nothing but snow at the moment on the hills. It is horrendously low, it is horrendously white, and I can assure you that it is incredibly cold at the moment. In fact, yesterday was pretty cold as well. I'm just halfway through editing my TikTok video for tomorrow. If you aren't following us on TikTok, you absolutely should. So yeah, I'm partway through following my editing my video for TikTok for today, and it shows exactly how cold yesterday was, which included a very, very frosty car and ice on the inside of my car, which I thought was kind of creepy. As far as the fish racks go, I've been too busy to get any more done over the last couple of days. I've got my part-time staff member coming in this morning sometime very soon, so I'll be able to crack on with that. I've just had to prioritize things like packing orders and general day-to-day stuff, water changes, stock management, all that kind of thing, as opposed to finishing them. But she'll be in this morning, so we'll be able to crack on a little bit further with that. Yes, I have seen that there is red chromides about. From my understanding, as they get older, they're a brackish fish. They do better in a saltier water. I've never personally kept them for that reason. They are quite a cool fish. They don't come in very often. But personally, I'm not committed enough to doing any sort of saltwater type of scenario. I've played around with it, and I just couldn't be bothered maintaining it properly. So that's why I don't do it, and that's why we won't be stocking chromides or monos or that kind of stuff that need the brackish water. Right. Let's cross quick things off. Just a quick reminder while we're early on in the live that we are open today from 11 till 4:30 and tomorrow from 10 until 3, and we're down in Kotua Place in Nelson. There was a lot of roadworks going on. They're slowly but surely opening up a little bit of parking outside of the shop, but you can still park in the Hex Butchery next door to us into their car park. So there's no dramas here whatsoever if you want to do that. Good morning, Zen. How are you doing? And Terrence got some balloon rams. Yeah, I think I saw some balloon rams are available again. Yeah, I'm kind of on the other side of that. I'm not a massive fan of any balloon fish. I think they look quite hideous and slightly deformed, but also just lifespan and stuff like that. I'm not a massive supporter of them. So I can almost 101% assure you that the fisherman won't be carrying any balloon rams, balloon mollies, balloon anything in any time soon / ever, most likely. That being said, The people that like them, and it's cool for the people that want them because they're back in the country. So that's always a good time. Oh, I've already said this one, but if you're not following us on TikTok, make sure you do. It's a really, really good time, and I nearly just dropped the F-bomb. How good. Yeah, I don't want to say I'm 100%, but I'm pretty close to it. I've still got a wee sniffle going on, and I've still got a cough, which I'm bound to bust out at some point during this live stream because it's just continuing to scratch me a little bit. But for the best part, I'm happy days again and up and about and living the wet armpit dream. So that's a good thing. Because hopefully this afternoon we'll be able to get the last of the fish racks set up properly and completed. I should be able to get a fish order in next week, all going to plan. So if there's anything that anyone is specifically looking for, please feel free to send us a message or leave a comment down below on what it is that you would like us to get in, that you're looking at stocking and that sort of stuff. And we can get that, try and get some of those fish moving. Again, we're kind of governed on what our wholesalers have at the time. So I'm just going to use Otto Sinkless as an example. We had someone looking for Ottos for quite a while, and I couldn't find them because there was no available, and then I was able to get some in. So I think it took about 6 weeks or so to be able to get some in. So we're governed on what I can basically buy from my wholesalers. So in saying that, I looked at the list last Friday when I wasn't buying fish, and there was some decent fish hanging around. So yeah, you never know your luck. There might be plenty of stuff that are cruising through, and you might be able to find some cool fish. So if there is anything that you're looking for, please feel free to let me know, and I'll see if I can find it and get it in for you. The electric blues are going fine. They definitely haven't cleared yet, but they're not getting any worse. They are acting normal, which is always a really good sign when a fish is sick. There's no major signs of distress or anything along those lines. They're all doing what they would normally do. So I'm happy with that. But obviously I'm unhappy that they've got some sort of sickness going on through them. To this point, the big UV setup that we've got running in the racks of the sales tanks has done its job. Nothing's been passed through from one tank to another. We've been very diligent when it comes to feeding and splashing water and water changes and that sort of scenario. So to not spread anything from one tank to another. I did water changes on them yesterday. They were the last one that I did a change on, and as soon as I was finished, the buckets and the hose and everything went outside to dry in the sun. So we're going to plan that it shouldn't transfer anything for the next time we use that equipment. So yeah, they're going okay. Haven't lost one yet, so we're just fighting that battle quite comfortably at the moment. The same can't be said about the white spot that was in with the golden bristlenose, the albino cherries, and a couple of platies. I've lost a lot of albino bristlenose, golden bristlenose, maybe 20-30% of what I had in there, which was quite a few. So I'm not winning that battle at the moment. I'll do another round of cleanups once I finish this and see where we're at. Last I looked, the albino cherry barbs were beginning to look better, which was good. But yeah, the bristlenose definitely haven't pulled through very well. But that is part and parcel of keeping fish and having to medicate and look after them, that kind of stuff. This sort of thing happens, unfortunately. Yeah, I totally agree. If the genetics didn't affect them so much, then I wouldn't really have any major issue with them. I'm not a huge personal fan of most man-made fish. After we've just spoken about electric blue rams, so I'm not a huge fan of man-made aquarium fish, but it's more for the general well-being and life of the fish itself, and the genetics on them are so average. It's just I just don't want to be a part of that system, basically. And yep, I agree. People get them, own them, look after them to the best of their ability, give them a healthy, thriving environment, all that kind of stuff, then it's happy days. So, as I've said many times, aquariums are so so cool and so versatile. Just because I like this doesn't mean you have to, and vice versa. But as long as it's in your home and you're happy with it, and you're looking after your live animals to your best of your ability, and they're, you're trying to get them thriving, then hey, who am I to judge? That's fantastic if you're happy with that. So yeah, aquariums are for the people. Okay, cool. And you're welcome for the freebies, Rochelle. So that micro worm culture is the size that we normally send. So what we'd consider a starter, which is probably more of a flourishing colony. So just in a normal sort of takeaway container, about yay big. So there's a decent amount that come in our micro worms. We send the same amount when it comes to white worms when they're going, and when we send our vinegar eels, it comes in a 270 ml jar or something along those lines. So they all say that they're starter cultures, but try to be quite generous on the starter cultures, so it's a decent size for people to get kick-started with. They're easy enough to culture, so I don't think there's much point in being stingy in them, and just giving everyone the best opportunity to get them going. Probably be enough there to split into 2 or 3 colonies without too much dramas, and you could be away and have no issues. So yeah. In saying that, microworms are really, really kicking off really well at the moment, so I'm happy with that. Looks like the grindle worms are doing pretty well as well. Both of those colonies seem to be doubling at a decent rate, so I'm really happy with how that's going. And for the first time in a very, very long time, it looks like my white worms are actually doing okay as well. So since I think it was summertime, late summer, I think they got too hot and they kind of cooked off, and the colony just depleted big time. Looks like it's finally bouncing back, so I'm going to try and keep that momentum going, and hopefully I can get a decent, thriving white worm colony. So we can sell some more white worms and feed some more fish out the back. All right. So Rapashi has arrived this morning. Earlier this week, I sent an email out and put a post on Facebook saying that Rapashi is going to have a price increase, which absolutely is going to have a price increase. So the current prices will probably last for another hour or so until I can get into getting all that uploaded. There will be some that don't increase this time around, like the Super Gold 85 grams, which is the goldfish formula. That's because I've got a few and I didn't have to order anymore, but next time they get ordered, then that'll increase as well. So the vast majority of the Rapashi range will be going up in price today. So if you still haven't got any, grab it while you can, because it will be actually going up in the next hour or so. So yeah. And yep, I did get some Aqueel air pumps in. We've got 3 different varieties, 2 different ranges. So it's the really big cannon type ones that are insanely quiet. So we've got them back in, as well as the slightly smaller ones, which I believe have a very, very similar technology to the bigger ones, so they should be just as quiet. I think they're the most quietest air pump available in New Zealand at the moment. So if you are looking for a quiet air pump, get amongst them. I think they're quieter than the Eheims, which I thought were really, really quiet for the best part. And they're quieter than the Tetras one, which I also thought was far quieter. So unfortunately, the Tetra's not coming anymore. But yeah, we've got the Aqueels because they're nice and quiet, so it's a good time. They came in with our Tropica tissue culture plants last week and all of our tropical softline food, which I'm really enjoying, and we've had a few people buy some, and we'll get some really, really good, excellent feedback from that as well. So that is also a good time. New light arrived from China this morning after a 2-week wait. The sinking fin with the boxes, yeah. I know that feeling all too well. Anytime we get anything arrive and it looks a bit crushed and stuff, you're like, that's not ideal. Hopefully we're good. So good to hear your light was still fine. And also good to see that you got your vinegar eels all right. Thank you very much for your support and purchasing from us. What's the best Rapashi of Africans? In my opinion, I think Soylent Green is probably the way to go there. I think that covers a vast majority of African cichlids, definitely in Mbuna. If you're wanting to push up the sort of protein levels a little bit, you could go and mix a little bit of grub pie into that as well. I don't think that would go too badly. I've mixed lots of different Rapashis together, but yeah, definitely Soylent Green. If you've got things like Tropheus, I think the Super Green would be your best option. It says on the container it's a vegan-based food, which I always thought was pretty amusing personally myself, but that is more designated for Tropheus. It will also work really well for things like Otocinclus and stuff like that. So yeah, I think Soylent Green is probably your best option to start with for the vast majority of African cichlids. That'll be the go-to. That's the one that I push people towards when they're talking about African cichlids and buying Rapashi at least as well. Yeah, totally agree. They are just so incredibly quiet. They're beautifully a pump. I'm more than happy with them. What are good foods to feed axolotls? If you're going down the Rapashi range, the grub pie is really good, like really, really good. So that would be probably my first thing to have a wee go on. If you can find earthworm colonies, they're going to go pretty well on them as well. Depending on the size, maybe even white worms might be an option if they're a little bit smaller. Other than that, there is some okay pre-prepared, like the JBL Novolotl, I think it's called, a nice little pellet. They seem to work pretty well, get a pretty good reputation as far as axolotl foods go. So they would be my first kind of things I would look towards. I would avoid doing the traditional thing like chicken and beef and all that kind of stuff. I think you're better off with some worm-based stuff. Definitely towards Rapashi if you can. I think that'll be the way you'd want to go. At least it's the way that we go. We feed the ones that we've got here. Rapashi for the best part. So yeah. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. Cool. Like I said, that cough was going to come back. I've done my monthly orders for the month, believe it or not, and we've taken on a couple of different bits and pieces that we're going to try. We're going to try and permanently have them in stock. It's some stuff that we've kind of tried before and they sell okay. So I've been on the fence about restocking with them, but I thought, why not bite the bullet, give it a nudge. So they will be in next week, which is kind of cool. So just a normal top up of all of your good stuff, a lot of JBL stuff, Echo One stuff like heaters and that sort of scenario. And what else do we get? A lot more bug bites were coming in. The fluval breeder boxes that we can't seem to keep on the shelf. We're getting some more of them. We've increased our order for that for the month. So hopefully we can keep them in stock and give everybody what they need when it comes to them. And yeah, there's a couple other bits and pieces that we're trying out. So I didn't realize that the FX2 was in the country. So I've decided that we're going to pick up the entire FX range. So FX2s, 4s, and 6s will be in stock. Fingers crossed that, they sell well enough to warrant having them in stock because it's a fairly large chunk of change. And then we can continue to carry them and keep them in stock. So we'll see how we go with that. So I am a fan of the Fluval FX range of filters. I know some people aren't, but I'm quite happy with them. So I thought we'd just rip the scab off and give it another go. I don't trust the live culture sources here in the US. What are the chances vinegar eels would make it through customs alive if someone was to pay more plus? Vinegar eels, I would suspect probably would. Those things are almost bulletproof. However, I don't know how that would work in the sense of your customs and your environmental laws and all that kind of stuff. So I dare say they probably would because they are basically bulletproof, but probably unlikely to happen. I'm sorry. Any nice blue guppies coming through yet? Well, it's funny you asked that because my next thing on my list was to talk about some of the fish that we have about to be released, and one of them was blue guppies. So we've got a very small handful of fish that are coming out of our quarantine system into the shop today, which is good because we've got very little fish at the moment because I haven't been buying any. So we've got a bunch of cherry barbs. They're nice little small ones. They are locally bred here in Nelson. So you're supporting, obviously not only us if you're buying them, but you're also going to be supporting a local hobbyist, local breeder. We've got some Adelphi cories coming through. Again, they're a little bit small. I think they might be a little bit smaller than the ones that are coming through wholesale at the moment, which I've noticed came through last week. We've got some Adelphi cories, which has been a very, very long time since they've been about. We don't even have them loaded on the website, so there'll be a little bit of time until they get put up, but they'll be available in the shop for people. And we have got some very nice guppies that have come through. We've got some Japan Blues. Again, actually, I might be able to load them on the website fairly quickly this morning. But we've got some Japan Blue line bred guppies. They're only male. They are like a short fin type of guppy with an iridescent light blue on them. So they are quite nice. Might not be exactly what you're looking for when it comes to blue guppies, but they are quite a nice guppy. So we've got them coming through, which would be cool as well. So yeah. Push that button away. And good morning to the person that said Cam, and good morning. Unfortunately, because you're on Facebook, not on YouTube, it just comes up with Facebook user. So if you're on one of the Facebook pages, where are we on? Will be the Top of the South Fish Keepers or the Nelson Fish Keepers page. It's Isaac. Good morning, Isaac. How you doing? You'll need to register your account. I don't think it does anything like send spam. I can assure you it doesn't do anything like send spam or anything like that. It just so that your name pops up in the chat as opposed to being a Facebook user. So on Facebook itself, it comes up with who you are and in that general chat. But on my end of it, all I see is Facebook users. So sometimes I just ignore some of them. But because I don't know who you are. We've had some more top-ups this week as well. We've got some more stress coat in, which sells pretty well. Everyone seems to love stress coat. We've got some test kits in, and we also got some prime, which I've almost sold out of, so I don't think I bought enough. So we'll top up some more of that next week, most likely. I just had this written down because I was a little bit frantic this morning without being unprepared with not having John here. Maybe you can find a hobbyist source of vinegar eels. Yeah, I would have thought that you'd be able to find a bunch of hobbyists somewhere around that would have vinegar eels somewhere over there. Maybe not easy to find some clean commercial ones, but you would have thought there'd be some nice clean ones via other hobbyists. And how did my list of local fish shops come along? Good. There was a lot more than I actually expected there was. For some reason, I only thought there was like half a dozen local fish shops in New Zealand, but turns out there was a lot more than I thought. So that's really cool. The reason behind doing that is, as we spoke about last Finatics Friday coffee date, we're doing like a manufacturer's type award sort of scenario. And I thought we should also put in a local fish shop award into that as well. So I wanted to get as many of the local fish shops as I could on the list and give everyone a chance to be involved in this because I think it's going to be a fun time. So yeah. Have previously stocked killifish in the past. They didn't sell very well for us, possibly because I'm not a major killifish fan myself, maybe. So I wasn't sort of pushing them a little bit harder than what they could have been. But we've definitely had them in the past. But yeah, they just didn't sell all that well for us. So I'm a little bit tentative of carrying them again. Very beautiful, very colourful fish. I can give absolute credit where credit's due on that because they can be stunning and phenomenal. It's just not a fish that I particularly like. So we may try it again another day, maybe 6 months' time or something like that. But at the moment, we don't carry killies for the time being. I didn't end up testing any nitrate test kits. Do you mean how the API one can sometimes throw up weird false results? Because I personally think most of that comes down to user error and not shaking the bejesus out of the vials and letting it sit for long enough. So if that is the case, my method when I'm using the master kit is I always do the API. I always do the nitrate first because it takes the longest. Really shake the bejeebus out of the first vial. When you drip it into the water, I shake test kit 2 and the vial, really violently give it to it for another couple of minutes, and then put the second lot through the little tube and then give it another hooziki and then sort of leave it. And then by the time you've got through your nitrite and your ammonia test kit, you're testing, which showed pretty quickly. It's normally been a few more minutes, and then the nitrate begins to adjust. The nitrate is one that needs time and needs the effort put into it. So, really needs a good shaking, and then it really needs the time for it to allow it to develop. So that's where I think most people kind of go wrong with that, personally. So maybe try that, giving a really good shake, and then letting it sit for 5 or so minutes. And how many local fish shops are run by a guy named Cam? I know there is at least 3, and I know there was another 1, 2 in Christchurch as well. I don't personally know them, but I do know that they're involved. I believe Rodney's son, who does Rodney's Tropicals in Christchurch, I believe his son is named Cam, and he works there or is involved in his business. And there was an importer down in Christchurch also named Cam. So seems to be a pretty popular name, so that's a happy days. And yes, I did hold back some of the albino cherry bubs. I held back a male and 2 females. Unfortunately, they were the ones that are in the tank with the golden bristle nose that have got the white spot. They, a bit of a rough tank at the moment, so they seem to be okay, or at least recovering a little bit. So fingers crossed there's no dramas with them, and then we'll give that a go. So prior to noticing that the white spot was going through it, it looked like the male was getting his shimmy on most mornings. So it's in a 3-foot tank with a really, really big piece of Java fern, and they were doing a shimmy over that pretty much every morning. I didn't see any upside down behavior or anything like that, but I definitely saw him shaking his stuff around in front of the female. So there might be some eggs in there, but the amount of bristlenose that are in there, I wouldn't have expected any will survive at the moment anyway. And I'm going to cough again. Apologies. The Sierra kit doesn't do any of that. I'm not sure if the Sierra supplier is still bringing in the full Sierra master kit. Again, I stocked them for a while and I found them really, really hard to sell. So I ended up discontinuing them at my end. To put in comparison, I probably sold 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 API master kits to the one Sierra, despite I think the Sierra having a far bigger range of tests that were involved in it. They just didn't move for me, so there was no point of having stock sitting on the shelf that doesn't move. So discontinued it, and we're just literally sticking with the API master kit and all of the refills for that. I also had the CChem stuff in. Couldn't sell them for the life of me as well, so I just figured it wasn't worth putting money into those ones and just left them with the API ones. So to be fair, that's what a lot of the product range has been like that, unless it's something I ridiculously like. If it hasn't sold and there's been a very similar product as a counterpart that does the same thing, we've just cut one and kept the other one, because there's no point in having money on the shelf that's not getting its money back, because we can't continue to grow and expand and stuff like that. What else do we got here? if you're Oops, I'll go back to the other ones in a second. A fish sometimes flinging off things that could be a parasite. Yep, that could be a parasite. It could also just be them having a scratch. It's not always necessarily a parasite or ick or something along those lines. If it's just a one-off, one fish doing it every now and then, I tend to not bother too much about it. If you're seeing it becoming quite regular, or the same fish is doing it over and over and over again in a very short period of time, then alarm bells would go off. But like us, I suspect that they get a bit scratchy and a bit itchy, and that's kind of it. I believe that one of our guests, I can't remember who it was speaking about that and the relationship between some like plants and wood and leaves and stuff like that in the wild with the fish and how they interact with it. And that's a really common thing for them to do. And it was something to do with transferring some sort of, it wasn't vitamins and minerals, but some sort of transfer from the botanicals that they're rubbing against onto the fish, as slime coat sort of scenario. So it might also be nothing whatsoever at all. So yeah, if it's really, really common and really obvious, then alarm bells go up. It's just an every now and then sort of thing. I don't tend to worry about it too much whatsoever. Yep, they are over twice the price, and I think that is probably the reason why they didn't sell, because they were more expensive, significantly more expensive. But I agree with you. There was a lot more going on that kit than just the nitrite, ammonia, pHs. From memory, you got a few more tests in there. It was a really more of a master kit, so you're kind of getting your money's worth at the same time, if that makes sense. So yeah. So the most recent Three Idiots podcast was released last week. If you're not familiar with the Three Idiots podcast, myself, Cameron from the Aquarium Project in Auckland, and Ryan Jury, who is a very experienced African cichlid breeder, have teamed up together, and we are doing a podcast related to aquariums, and we've called it Three Idiots Talk Aquariums. We're actually nearly 6 months in, which is kind of cool. I think episode 25 or 26 was released this week or something like that. So that's really cool. It's released every single Sunday. We release it on both YouTube and Spotify. Well and truly worth a listen if you have not joined us before. It's just basically Three Idiots talking crap about aquariums, and it's a really fun time. Nice and lighthearted. Everyone pokes a bit of fun at everybody, but the main root of it is just enjoying the hobby for what it is. So if you have not followed us on YouTube or on Spotify, I would encourage you to do so. Particularly for this week's episode that is coming up, it is a humdinger. So we were talking about unpopular opinions. For the first 40 or so minutes, everything was really cruisy. We were kind of agreeing, kind of disagreeing, and then someone said something to somebody, and it sparked up a riot, and it was fantastic. I've watched it a couple of times because I've been giggling about it, so it wasn't me that said anything to the other Cam, and I might not have racked him up whatsoever, but it was a good time. So, it's well and truly worth subscribing and following to it, even if it's just to listen to this episode coming up. It is a absolute beauty. So that's released normally about midday on Sunday here in New Zealand. I share it on our Facebook page, and Cam shares on his Facebook page and stuff like that. So yeah, if you haven't yet, please follow us and subscribe on those two platforms, because you will enjoy this one. I enjoyed it, so you'll enjoy it. That is all that I've got for my list. So look at that, we're all crossed off. So that's a happy day. So if we want to continue chatting away with what's happening in the chat and stuff like that, we can do that. All right, what episode on YouTube was the shipping one? So me via the Fish Room have done one on shipping fish about 4 years ago, so you'll find that in our back catalogue. And then the Three Idiots did one, I think it might have been 8 weeks ago. I think it was episode titled "How Do Our Fish Get There?" or "How Do We Get Our Fish?" or something along those lines. I wonder if I can do something and push some buttons and have a wee look. 3 idiots. Look at me multitasking. Episode 16, How to Transport Tropical Fish. If I'm on mute, will let me see if I can do some things. This is all new territory to me. Did that work? It might not have worked. So, yeah, that I think is the episode that you were talking about. So, yeah, we discussed that in the podcast and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, hopefully that one helps you. And like I said, me as in the fish room also produced one of those videos 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. So we've got one of them that you can follow as well. Shooting fish is fairly easy once you've done it a couple of times. It's not as stressful as you sort of think it is. Some of the most important key takeaways from it. So I think it's really important to purge your fish before you send them. So if you can not feed them for a couple of days prior to sending them, I think that's a fantastic option. If you can do a water change the day before you're sending them, I also equally think that is a fantastic option. So the theory behind that is that when the fish is in the bag, it's not going to be releasing ammonia from excreting, basically, because there's nothing in its bowels for it to do that with. And if you have done a water change prior to that before, your nitrates and stuff are already going to be lower, so you're just sort of helping that get through. So that is one of the key points. Obviously, you want to send it overnight as opposed to 2 or 3 days. Not always possible with the post service. Sometimes they get delayed. Heat packs, although we did a couple of tests on one of the 3 Idiots podcasts, and it was kind of inconclusive about whether heat packs work or not. I think heat packs are important, especially at this time of the year. But it also depends on where the couriers kind of keep the boxes and stuff like that as well. But heat packs are important. If I'm assuming you're not going to have pure oxygen, so we won't worry about going through that. It's about minimizing the amount of time they're in the bag. So personally, we start packing fish at about 3 o'clock to be picked up at 4:30. But if that's not a thing that you can do, so be it. This has to be what it has to be. So I think the key is trying to make sure the water is in good condition, and if you can get oxygen into it, go for it. If you can't, it just is what it is. So, like I said, once you've done it a couple of times, it's fairly easy. If you watch your local fish shop pack the fish when you're buying it from them, it's pretty much the exact same process, but you're putting it in a box with a heat pack. Lots of packaging around it so it doesn't go wiggling around everywhere. And away you go. Obviously, the smaller the box, the cheaper it's going to be for you. But if you're sending a 25-inch fish, you're not going to be putting it in a small box. So yeah. And the best company seems to be New Zealand Post. New Zealand Post are pretty efficient. A couple of years back, Post Haste were really, really good. But it depended on what depot you were going to. For the best part, they were good. But we use NZ Post, and I think most people seem to be using NZ Post. Avoid Aramex at all costs. They are just very, very average when it comes to delivering on time, so I wouldn't go anywhere near them. But NZ Post seems to be pretty good. So yeah, never use Aramex, pretty much. So we were using Aramex for dry goods and stuff like that last year. Because they're a little bit cheaper and we were doing free shipping, and that so financially, from a business point of view, that made sense. But the amount of packages it took 2 or 3 weeks to get there was just unbelievable. So in the end, it just wasn't worth the 20 cents less or whatever it was. So we ended up transferring to everything to New Zealand Post, even when we were doing free shipping, just because it was just so much more reliable. Things, generally speaking, turn up the next day, which is fantastic. G'day, Jamie. How are you, mate? Water change Friday. Happy days. I hope you were enjoying your hobby Friday day. And it's good to see that you joined us like you said you were going to. So, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, NZ Post, yep. And yes, Aramex does suck. We've got a question from Crips here. And excuse me, I'm going to cough again. growing real dense totally depends on the crypt. Some don't like to grow dense, others do. A really nice, rich substrate goes a long way with crypts. If you don't have a rich substrate, root tabs, root balls works really well. They don't take a lot of the nutrients from the water column. They draw most of it from underneath. In fact, I think there's been a few tests that say that they do literally nothing from the water column. It's all from underneath. So that would be my first thing. It's nice and rich. They don't need super intense lighting. And saying that, you can put them under pretty intense lighting, they go fine. You can put them under really dim lighting, and they'll go fine as well. So they're not overly concerned with that. But the most important thing with crypts is just giving them time. So once they've got that rich layer, just leave them, let them do their thing. The longer you let them grow, the more dense and intense they go. They do not like being moved very much. So like when you see all these photos of tanks that are really dense, full of crypts, it's because they've given them time to settle in and then just begin to produce. So other than the Balance in the shop, most of the crypts that we've got growing in the shop are beginning to do that because they've been in there now for 9 months or so, and they're just allowing themselves to do their thing. So time and a really rich substrate would be my main things when it comes to getting your crypts to grow really nice and dense, and the right selection of crypt as well. So Aphanus, for example, creeps along the front or creeps along the substrate more, so it doesn't grow really dense. It grows like a little hedge, I suppose is a really nice way of putting it. It doesn't grow very tall, but it kind of just hedges along. Pitcheye is another one that kind of just grows quite low and tends to just not grow in dense clumps. Whereas the name's eluding me. The one I took a photo of yesterday. Sorry, the name's totally eluding me. Does seem to grow on more of a dense clump. Winditai grows in a nice wee dense clump as well. And it's really annoying me that I can't remember the name of the plant that grows like that. Blasei grows more like runners, running along, and Cordata is very similar, although Cordata does clump quite nicely, but it sort of grows out at the same time as opposed to really big and intense bushes of it. So I hope that helps, and I'm going to be really, really frustrated until I can remember the name of the crypt that I'm talking about. I wonder if look at me doing this again. I'll have a wee look because I'll have it on my list of crypts that we sell because we sell it. Give me a second. Walker-eye is the one I was after. That grows quite nicely and clumpy as well. And it wasn't Pava. Pava's not overly available here in New Zealand, unfortunately. Feed on package per day for work. Yep, NZ Post. Generally speaking, NZ Post is the best here. I'd like to see a comp of New Zealand. Who has the most tanks? Are you putting a clause in that to shops or just hobbyists, or how are you doing with that? I would suspect that Rodney's Tropicals in Christchurch would have a pretty good argument for being the most tanks if we're not talking about wholesalers, because wholesalers probably have a few as well. As far as a retailer, I'd say he probably has a few stacked up in his shed or in his fish room. Hobbyists, yeah, that would be cool to see who's got the most. Sometimes it's not about who's got the most; it's what you're doing with them and that sort of scenario. So, but yeah, it would be kind of cool to see who's got the most aquariums hanging around in the country. I dare say there would be some people with some fairly impressive fish rooms tucked around the place. So, yeah. Cool. So I've finished my coffee now. So now I'm onto the water. And for some strange reason, we still have lots of people watching, which we don't normally have after this time, especially with me just talking and rambling to myself. So that's fantastic. So if you are still here, it'd be great. Look at me doing the admin stuff. If you could do the like thing and subscribe to us on all those things. It'd be really cool. If not, you don't want to, don't do it, and that's just fine by me as well. As you can see behind me, I put the sign up the other day. Unfortunately, the light and glare of it isn't quite showing us, so that's where the frontosa tank is going to go, and that reefer room sign there, which is actually a light I'm not going to be seeing again, is going to go up beside it. So I think I measured it correctly, so they can basically sit right in the middle of that window and above it, and then up there above it, and they'll be able to sit with the above the frontosa tank. So that's the plan, at least. It's here, but it's just really, really hard to get hold of. I know it's in. I know two people off the top of my head that definitely have it. One is in Christchurch, which is 5 hours south from here, and one is actually Nelson. I had a couple of plants, and then we moved one shop to another shop. It died off. They died off, and they haven't come back. Unfortunately, they didn't like the move. So it's definitely here. It's just not as commonly to get as I wish it was, because it's a very nice plant. So yeah. Best way to raise KH without a buffer. I've tried oyster shells. Have you tried bits of coral? That might help you a little bit. African cichlids also tend to enjoy having coral, so maybe if you find a bit of dry dead coral, that might help bring it up a little bit. Yeah, that would probably, if you're trying oyster shells, coral, probably my first thing I would look at, seeing if that helps whatsoever. Might be a case that you need to pre-treat your water with coral or oyster shells or what have you, in like a drum or something like that before you do your water changes. That might be an option. So that would be the first thing I would probably try. Yeah, it's insane how much they pay for pea puffers. The interesting thing I find with any fish, like the peppermints and starlight bristlenose, I think go for like $5 sort of scenario. Like the ridiculously cheap. Well, we're talking about a couple of years back now, when our starlights and stuff like that were, $65, $70 each. So it always blows my mind, different climates for different fish and what's going on and stuff like that. So their prices for their plecos are insanely expensive, because they can't get hold of them for the best part. Whereas over here, a lot of plecos I think are really reasonably priced. So yeah, it's crazy, the different prices of different fish around the country, around the world. And then you look at some of the prices in like America for fish, because there's so many retailers and stuff like that. They're so cheap, it's insane. So also insane that they don't have to travel quite as far from being wild caught or tank raised or what have you into the States, compared to going halfway across the world to New Zealand. So yeah, cool. All right. If there's nothing else nobody wants to talk about, I might move along and get rocking and rolling with setting up some more tanks. Before I go, I'll just remind everybody, follow us on TikTok. See, finger guns as well. Follow us on TikTok. It is a good time. On that platform, we do something totally different that we don't do anywhere else, and it's literally following me around every single day. Happy days for what we do here. So you're getting a really good behind-the-scenes look of what goes on to running a fish shop. So with all the platforms that we have, we try and separate them all. So obviously here on YouTube, I really like this live stream format and like bringing guests on as well. I think that's really cool. So that's the main thing we do here on YouTube. Facebook is our more general chat conversation, talking about products, talking about fish, photos, videos, the whole lot. I said TikTok is more behind the scenes stuff for what's going on in a fish shop. And then every now and then we'll do something on Instagram, which is pretty uncommon because taking photos of fish is really, really hard. But yeah, so we do a little bit different on every single platform, try not to keep it all the same. So if you haven't, please jump onto TikTok and follow us. And again, if you are in Nelson, we're open today from 11 till 4:30, and then tomorrow 10 until 3. Yeah, you're right. The New Life Spectrum gel does not smell nearly as bad as Rapashi. It smells almost identical to any New Life Spectrum food that I've ever opened, which I always thought was quite nice smelling. So, yeah, I'm glad you've taken something out of that review, and I'm happy that I could help. So, yeah. On that note, if there's any products that anybody wants to see us review, please feel free to let us know, and I'm more than happy to do so. I was thinking about doing a review on some of the tropical soft line range. So if anybody's interested in that, just feel free to let me know, and I'll begin that process. So yeah, it goes for any products. Happy to rip them open, give them a go. It also helps me for working out whether or not I will continue with the products and keep them in the shop, whether they're worth having, whether they're junk or not. But also for you guys, you don't have to spend your money on something that may or may not be taken by your fish. So yeah. Feel free to send us an email, private message, or whatnot, and we'll check out some different products. So yeah. I'm going to go now because I have a lot of work to do, and we'll get through that rack. Hopefully I can give an update on Facebook later on this afternoon. So have a good one, team. Happy fish keeping. Have a good one. Oh, push the button.